Between the Redmi Note 13, Samsung Galaxy A15 and Tecno Spark 20 Pro, which offers the best value for you? Yeah, it's a triple comparison. Now, while these devices are solid budget offerings in their own right, each have their strengths and weaknesses and might appeal to different use cases. So let's get started. If you wish to see individual and more detailed reviews of these devices, I'll link them in the description. This video is going to be focused more on how they compare, so you decide which is best for you. Starting with the box content, the Samsung Galaxy A15 comes with the least accessories, just a USB cable. The Redmi Note 13 and Tecno Spark 20 Pro both come with complete accessories, including protective casings. The Spark 20 Pro goes further with wired earphones, which you won't find on the Redmi. In terms of pricing, the Galaxy A15 comes at a more affordable price point, making it the most affordable of all three devices. However, the base version of the A15 has 4 gigs of RAM, and by the time you are purchasing extra accessories and getting a higher RAM version, you're probably spending the same or even more than the others. The Spark 20 Pro surprisingly is the most expensive, which I actually find very surprising since it had the launch price more affordable than that of the Redmi. But I can't seem to find it anywhere at that price. The advantage, however, is that the Spark 20 Pro comes with 8 gigs of RAM and twice the storage capacity of the base versions of the Samsung and Redmi. Now, that is to say, if you are getting the same memory configuration for either the Samsung or Redmi, you'll likely be spending just as much. The design might come down to personal preference. The Samsung is the easiest one to spot out based on its design conforming to the Samsung standard. The Redmi has a solid design, actually my preference in terms of looks compared to the others. The Tecno sports the iPhone design, which some might dislike, but others might prefer how it gives people the impression that they are holding an iPhone. In terms of hands-on feel, the Tecno has a much more touch-friendly rear finish as it has a texture that easily resists or hides smudges. The Galaxy A15 and Redmi Note 13 have the annoying glossy finish which not only attracts smudges but will also show scratches easily. The Tecno is the taller device, having a 6.78 inches display, while the A15 is the more portable one with a 6.5 inches display. The Redmi is somewhere in between. Speaking of their display properties, I'll go straight forward and say the Redmi Note 13 has the best display of all three. Not only does it have the slimmest bezels, it's also the brightest and most convenient to use outdoors. It gets 1800 nits of peak brightness. The Samsung has the thickest bezels and a U-notch. The Tecno, however, is the only LCD display amongst them. So it's more of the Redmi having pretty much nothing to nitpick about its display, while you can nitpick the notch display of the Samsung and the fact that it's the only phone here with a 90Hz display compared to 120Hz on the others. The only thing to nitpick about the Spark 20 Pro's display is that it is LCD. If it had AMOLED, that would have made much of a difference. However, in your day-to-day use case, whichever of these devices you pick up, you should be satisfied with what their display has to offer. Just know what advantages each one has over the other. The Samsung Galaxy A15 and Tecno Spark 20 Pro both have side-mounted fingerprint scanners, while the Redmi Note 13 uses an optical one. They all do their jobs just fine to unlock the device. Now, if you are someone that prioritizes software support, the Galaxy A51 is the one to go for, as it's the only one among these three currently running on Android 14 and also the only one that will receive support up to Android 18. Tecno has promised 2 OS upgrades for their devices, but there's no telling how soon we can see Android 14, nor if they are going to actually give 2 software updates for the Spark 20 Pro. But Android 14 is guaranteed, it's just a matter of when. Redmi is no software saint either. They have launched the Note 13 with Android 13 and MIUI 14, while most were expecting HyperOS. There should be at least 2 OS upgrades or probably 3, but how soon we can get that, there is no confirmation. In terms of features, they are all packed. Whichever you prefer will be down to your preference between One UI, MIUI, and iOS, as they each have some features exclusive to them you might prefer. It is worthy of mention that the Galaxy A15 still can't screen record by default. Now, that's nothing you can't solve with a third-party screen recorder, but just putting it out there. At this price point, you should be able to screen record without having to download a third-party application. For sound, they all get stereo speakers except the Galaxy A15, which sticks with a downfiring mono speaker. The Tecno has the loudest speakers. While the Spark 20 Pro gets the higher memory configuration, it is also the only one among them you can use with dual SIM cards and an SD card at the same time. The Galaxy A15 and Redmi Note 13 both use a hybrid SIM slot, and you can only use one SIM card if you intend to use it with an SD card. Now let's talk processor differences. The Galaxy A15 and Spark 20 Pro both use the MediaTek Helio G99, a processor which sits above the Snapdragon 685 in performance. The 685 is what we have on the Redmi Note 13. Both processors run just fine on both phones, and the fact that the G99 has better specs on paper compared to the Snapdragon 685 takes nothing from the fact that all three devices perform just fine, and you'll barely be bothered about which processor is the fastest. However, if you game, you will find that the Spark 20 Pro and Galaxy A15 offer better gaming performance than the Redmi Note 13. They can both maintain medium graphics and high frame rates at the same time with Call of Duty Mobile, and can also reach ultra frame rates with PUBG. Can't say the same for the Note 13. Now, while it has higher graphics settings with Call of Duty Mobile, it can only play at medium frame rates unless you drop the graphics settings to low. You don't get the HD option with PUBG. Putting it in straighter terms, the Galaxy A15 and Tecno Spark 20 Pro are better at gaming than the Redmi Note 13. But that is not to say the Redmi pales in comparison. It will play your games consistently, just lower your expectations when it comes to graphics and frame rates. That is when compared to the other two. Now, on battery life and charging, they all have faster charging, with the Galaxy A15 charging at 25 watts, while the Spark 20 Pro and Redmi Note 13 Pro both charge at 33 watts. And as we've mentioned before, you are going to have to buy the 25 watts charger with the Galaxy A15. Based on my experience using these devices individually, the battery lasts longer on the Tecno, followed by the Samsung, and then the Redmi. But they are not that far apart, and the results may vary depending on your use case. In the camera department, the Redmi Note 13 and Tecno Spark 20 Pro come with a 108 megapixel compared to the 50 megapixel one on the Samsung. And it will be interesting to see how much these specs impact the quality between these three when compared. The Redmi has an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, the Samsung gets 5 megapixels for its ultra wide, the Tecno gets none. Now on the selfie camera, the Tecno gets the higher 32 megapixels to the 16 and 13 on the Redmi and Samsung respectively. In the grand scheme of things, megapixels matter less, only actual image processing. Now these are photos from all three devices compared. Is there one you'd say has the overall better cameras when compared to the others? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. They can all shoot videos at 1080p 30fps with no stabilization. The Spark 20 Pro however can go up to 2K 30fps, giving it the edge in terms of resolution, but which will you say does better with videos on both selfie and rear cameras? Now between these three devices, while you could say they should all serve well for budget devices, it comes down to your preference which you go for based on what advantage one holds over the other. I find it interesting that the Samsung is the more affordable option, even if it comes with less accessories, also being the one with the better software support. The Redmi has a better display and also runs a Snapdragon processor, which some enthusiasts might prefer. The Tecno provides more RAM, more storage, and still allows you to use an SD card alongside your dual SIM cards, and is also one of the better options for gaming. Considering how their cameras performed, which would be your preference overall between these three? Also, if you are contemplating on how the Infinix Hot 40 Pro compares to all these devices, whatever applies to the Tecno Spark 20 Pro is applicable to the Hot 40 Pro, as they are pretty much identical in all specifications. Don't forget to check out the individual reviews linked here or in the video description.